The TMJ-TMD conundrum is real and has been puzzling the dental and medical professions for decades. This is the TMJ-TMD Demystified podcast with Dr. Tony Urbanek, where we'll connect the dots between TMD symptoms and the actual cause. We'll tackle common TMD misconceptions and educate you, the practitioner, about a simple, tested, and proven TMD solution that has already provided relief to thousands of patients, while helping practitioners build an additional source of income free from insurance control. Welcome to this episode of the TMJ-TMD Demystified podcast.
Welcome, TMD warriors. I am Tony Urbanek, and we are gathered here today for the next episode of TMD Demystified. This morning, we are going to discuss the topic of TMD and palatal, mandibular tori, and maxillary exostoses. Palatal tori, mandibular tori, and maxillary and mandibular exostoses, and its relationship to TMD problems. This is a really interesting topic because I don't think that I, in particular, have been the only person to uncover this fact, but it is extremely unknown in the dental world, in the dental community, that bruxism actually causes palatal tori, bilateral mandibular tori, and maxillary exostoses. If you ask the average dentist who knows what to call these things from his pathology book, what causes them, they'll just kind of roll their eyes and shake their head. No, and it on kind of not so careful inspection of the resources available in the dental literature, it becomes very obvious that that's exactly what causes tori and exostoses, is bruxism. And you will see these commonly with your TMD patients. In fact, it's one of the signals that if they have tori or exostoses, which are usually on the buccal. On the buccal, they're called exostoses. On the maxillary buccal, you'll see them. On the mandibular buccal, you'll see them. They're called exostoses. Mandibular, on the lingual of the mandible, they're called tori, and the palatal, they're called tori. But basically, they're bony protuberances caused by the excess proliferation of bone due to bruxism. Not that every patient who bruxes will form tori. That is not true. You will see, on occasion, patients who do brux that don't form tori or exostoses. But for the most part, if you see either one of those entities, you can count on the fact that they have been long-term bruxes. Of course, it depends on the degree of bruxism, the frequency, and the forces produced on the bruxism as to how rapidly or not rapidly these bony protuberances form. But there's a little more to say about this in conjunction with the problem. You would hopefully, I hope that you would then ask, how in the heck does bruxism cause excess bone formation? Well, that's pretty simple if you know the general nature of facial growth, how bone is laid down, a little bit about histology, and how electromagnetic forces or piezoelectric forces can assist in bone formation. And that's what I'll talk about just a little bit here. But as I've referred to this textbook several times in the other episodes, I would refer you to the Handbook of Facial Growth, which is authored by Donald Enlow. This is his original volume. There's a new edition out. I have both, but I'm not going to go over this in detail. I'm not even going to, go through the concepts that he lays out about facial growth. But the point is that beneath the periosteum, the bone can be either resorbed or added under certain circumstances. And the circumstances can be varied, but one of the circumstances that assist in laying down bone, changing the contours of the bony structures throughout the body, not just the face, is the piezoelectric effect. And piezoelectric effect is nothing more, and I'll read you from a paper that I pulled out here. Piezoelectric effect is the ability of certain materials to generate an electric charge in response to applied mechanical stress. So this piezoelectric effect is not just a biologic effect, it can go mechanical, but biologically, forces through the teeth into the bone can create piezoelectric force around the area, which can enhance bone formation. I was fortunate enough to stumble into this concept a long, long time ago when I was working at Vanderbilt on my grant-funded NIH project as an NIH fellow, which I did in conjunction with the Vanderbilt Department of Anatomy Cell Biology. And I discovered or ran into the concept of a electromechanical, electronic force field can enhance the application of bone in certain areas. I applied this this concept later on once I came into private practice by I had a patient referred to me who had seen, as I recall, 3 other oral and maxillofacial surgeons here in Middle Tennessee with a non-union of a mandibular fracture. And this patient was referred to me because I was noted at the time being very creative in my application of technology and in maxillofacial surgery. And again, this concept that I stumbled into in my research at Vanderbilt came from a group of researchers in South Africa back in the mid-60s, if I recall, who used external electrical fields placed around non-union bone fractures of the long bones of the leg, the femur, and got tremendous results by by creating an electrical field within a cast around the non-union of the long bone of the leg. And they wrote successful papers on this showing how well it worked. I applied this to this woman who was referred into me after a little bit of thought. How can I actually create an electrical field around a non-union of a mandibular fracture, which is back here in the angle of the mandible? Bone grafts have been tried, all kind of things. She had been wired together for a total of like 6 months, and no one could get this fracture to heal. So very simply, what I did is I got a biocompatible battery and made a loop, like a multiple loop of wires, placed it not in the fracture, but on the outside of the fracture, hooked it up to the battery, implanted the battery in the submandibular area, and sent her off and watched her for a relatively short period of time. Within 2 months to 3 months, I forget exactly what it was, but in that time frame, we had the fracture healed. And then I removed the battery, and some of the wire actually was embedded in the bone, so we had to leave a little wire behind. But she was very, very grateful. very, very grateful patient. And it was just an example of how you can use a electrical field to enhance bone formation. So it's a well-established protocol. It is not used in dentistry anywhere near. It could be. I think that it could apply both the piezoelectric effect and the actual stimulation by electrical current to generate bone in and around dental implants. I think that there probably are some implant companies working in this area. It certainly would be, certainly would change the concept of placing dental implants, but we won't go there. I just really want to bring this to the attention of those viewers who are interested in treating TMD. Number one, from the standpoint of what are tori and how they are related to TMD. They're related to TMD because bruxism will create these tori through the piezoelectric effect, forces placed on the teeth through bruxism. And of course, the force can be in different directions, unilateral, bilateral. That's why you can see tori different levels, different sizes between right and left mandible. You can see exostoses, heavy on one side, but light on the other, or non-existent on the other. And that has to do with how the patient bruxes and how long they brux and how much force they placed into the bone, creating the piezoelectric effect, then stimulating the bone to form. This also obviously occurs in the palate with the palatal tori. Same thing, the chronic bruxism, but the palatal tori has a raphe running down the middle, and that is where the bone is easily stimulated, which you'll see some, the usual formation of the tori can be wide or they can be pedunculated. But in either case, has to do with the piezoelectric effect and the stimulation of bone due to bruxism. So I guess this is going to be a rather short episode, which is fine, a short one. We've made some longer ones. I'd refer you to a paper that I pulled up. It was from the Journal of Medicine, Oral Medicine and Oral Surgery, 2019, Palatal tori, Etiology, Clinical Aspect, and Therapeutic Strategy. This paper does state in general terms, that tori can be associated with function. They did not specifically say bruxism, but what we have seen on our series of now over 4,000 treated TMD patients, that if you see tori, if you see exostosis, you can count on the fact that you've made the diagnosis of bruxism for that patient. And another paper I'd like to just use as a reference is from Bioelectricity, Enhancement of Bone Regeneration through Converse Piezoelectric Effect. This paper is from 2021, and it has a huge number of references, 114 references that you can learn all about the piezoelectric effect and bone regeneration, which it's not going to do you or I any good to go into detail about this when you can pull this paper up on your own. So we will reference both of those papers at the end of this episode. And I would hope that that little bit of information I gave you today will give you some insight as you do your practice on a day-to-day basis when you see these, because when you see these entities, you'll know that this patient bruxes, and if they brux, they have a high probability of TMD. You can just ask them, do you have headaches, earaches, jaw pain, or neck pain? You're likely to get it. If they're a female, you're likely to get an answer yes. If you're a male, if it's male, not so likely. They're more likely to say, I have a history of ringing, fullness, or dizziness. just a few concepts to tie together regarding TMD. TMD and palatal tori, mandibular tori, and maxillary mandibular exostosis are caused by bruxism. So for today, we'll call it a short episode. If you have questions, don't hesitate to contact us. If you have comments, you can comment on this episode on the Dental Town platform itself. I can be reached at Tony at tmjservices.net, our Director of Marketing, Naomi at tmjservices.net. If you'd like to join our growing network of dentists, general dentists, oral surgeons, and orthodontists who use our TMD device and protocol for the highly successful relief of all TMD symptoms, including what most people call migraine headaches, Meniere's disease, ringing, fullness, dizziness, contact us. You can see our website at www.tmjservices.net. So for today, until next time, I'm Tony Urbanik, and this is TMD Demystified.